tell us a bit about the organisation first, if you could. This is quite a new creature on the island.
Yeah, so we launched on May 20th of this year, and we very much came out of coronavirus. So Manx students have never really had a form of representation just for them. If you enter into higher education from the Isle of Man, it's quite well known that there's a good chance you're going to have to leave the island for one reason or another. It could be personal preference, but for a lot of people, just to do the course they want to do, they have to leave. So at that point, they feel like they're losing their ties to the island and to their community. And for a lot of people, this is their primary source of support. So creating a system where students who have left the island and students who have stayed can all be united is a way of creating support in a time where that is quite hard to come by.
So what forms does that take? And what kinds of things do you do to help these students?
So you can find us on all forms of social media. So we're trying to gather people together so that we can put them into a sort of Facebook group. We also have a website which can direct people to good sources of support for them. But on the island itself, we've been trying to make it as sustainable as possible for people to enjoy their time here, to have a sort of social life. So we've been introducing student discounts with the help of local businesses across the island so that when students are here, they can feel like they are part of the Manx community. We've also been helping out with internship schemes, so that the Department for Enterprise's new scheme that went live this year and was incredible success, over 200 applicants to the scheme, over 100 from businesses locally. We made sure that could happen, and then that meant that students felt like they were involved again in the Manx community, and they were able to sort of make the most of the situation because internships in the UK disappeared over the course of this year.
Is it hoped that that will give students a support network which would see them more often return perhaps to the island? Is that part of the idea?
The idea is to give people the choice. So there's 3 key reasons that students don't come back to the Isle of Man, and one of them is expensive travel. Getting on and off the island is very, very expensive and quite hard to book, and it's not very flexible. Another issue is that people feel their social life is not very good here, or their social life, they feel too attached to it from when they've gone away. And also that the housing market is quite inaccessible. So these are the sort of key reasons why students don't come back. So by uniting students and being able to address these issues, you may well see an increase in graduates returning.
Have you spoken to many students on the island, both who are returning to university and going for the first time? Mm-hmm. And how are they feeling?
It's mixed opinions. Students who are already at UK institutions seem quite set to return, largely to see if they like the new normal and see if they can get used to it. But I know a lot are using it as a sort of trial period and are hoping that if in, say, a month or 2 months' time, they really don't like it and they really haven't adjusted, they want to be able to come home and transition things online. A lot of universities have kind of made that choice for them. As much as Manx students are technically international students when going to the UK, a lot of universities have kept some face-to-face teaching, and that sort of bait has pulled students over, so they don't really feel like they've had a choice. So I think it will be a while before we know how students actually feel about higher education, but definitely for freshers, there's been a really impressive intake from the island of the amount of students who've looked at the situation, decided they're going to go anyway, and they're going to try it. So it's really commendable.
Dr. Allinson, what you've just heard there, does that reflect your experiences and the conversations you've been having?
It does. I mean, from a department's point of view, we weren't quite sure how many people might want to defer for a year before they went to university. Actually, very few have done so. Part of that's the reality that most people, when they take a gap year, they go travelling or they get a job, and obviously that's becoming incredibly difficult now on the island and around the world. I mean, what we have seen is, as I said, about 350 undergraduates starting university, but we've also got 112 at UCM who've started there, and we've tried to expand the offering locally for a whole range of reasons. I mean, that was part of a long-term strategy as well, was to build the further education offering on the island.
And there are some new courses just at that institution as well.
There are indeed, and we've been working quite closely with Department for Enterprise, with Chamber, to devise courses that are useful for people to then go on into the job market. For instance, counselling courses, emphasising the health and social care courses that are there. But as Kat says, one of the things that I think all of us have got out of the last 6 months is that we as an island need to be self-reliant. We need to work together, and so the networking opportunities she and her union have presented, I think, have been really useful, because as all of us have gone into isolation, students have as well. They've been denied access to their friends across. They've been denied access to the travel that they normally do over the summer, and so being able to share that experience and work together and support each other, I think, has been incredibly helpful for our student community.